Donald Trump probably feeling a little bit of FOMO, feeling a little jealous that Kanye is getting all the attention for his anti-Semitic comments, has decided to weigh in with his own anti-Semitism. Now, this was an attack on Jewish people on Truth Social specifically, where Trump posted the following: "No president has done more for Israel than I have. Somewhat surprisingly, however, our wonderful evangelicals are far more appreciative of this than the people of the Jewish faith, especially those living in the US." Now, there's a reason why evangelicals are much more appreciative of that. I'll get to that in just a moment, but let me continue with his post where he says, "Those living in Israel, though, are a different story. Highest approval rating in the world, could easily be PM. US Jews have to get their act together and appreciate what they have in Israel before it is too late." Now, let's just note that Trump's statement there reeks of what Biden had said, where about black people specifically, about how, he went after black voters who don't vote for him, don't vote for Democrats. And he got a lot of justified criticism for that. But in this case, Trump can say this on Truth Social, and the very same people, very same right wingers who attacked Biden over his statements about black voters, give this a pass, total pass. I mean, yeah, obviously, if you're a Jewish American, you should be voting for Donald Trump because of what he's doing in Israel or what he did in Israel. And just as a quick refresher, what Trump had done in Israel under his, watch was actually pretty terrible in terms of the conflict between the Israeli government and Palestinians. So for instance, he moved the American embassy in Israel to Jerusalem and formally recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. He never really challenged Israel on their illegal settlements in Palestinian territory. He withdrew US troops, he withdrew the US from the UN Human Rights Council, citing their alleged poor treatment of Israel. He froze and withdrew hundreds of millions of dollars meant for a Palestinian aid program. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And by the way, he is right, Cenk, that evangelicals tend to vote for people who have hardline stances in support of Israel. In fact, more than 8 in 10 white evangelical Protestant voters who attend religious services frequently, 85%, voted for Trump in the most recent election. Now, their reasoning, though, isn't altruistic. It isn't because they love Jewish people or they love the existence of Israel. There's actually a very self-serving reason for why they support Trump policies toward Israel. And this next video gives you some sense of what it's about. It has to do with their end times prophecy.
For evangelicals, the most important of the Bible's prophecies is the second coming, when Jesus will return to earth. The Bible doesn't say when this will happen, but it does say where.
This is Jerusalem. World history as we know it is going to end right here.
Christian Zionism. The idea that the return of the Jewish people to Israel is one of a series of events that will trigger Jesus' second coming.
Jesus is telling us that the rebirth of Israel is a sign of the end, not just a sign, it's the super sign.
According to this theology, God will reward those who help Israel and punish those who don't.
Part of their end times theory or ideology is that the second coming of Christ will lead to the slaughter of Jewish people in Israel. Yeah, and Pastor Nate Pyle says this: what kickstarts the end times into motion is Israel's political boundaries being reestablished to what God promised the Israelites according to the Bible. So, Cenk, you've talked about this on the show before. You've actually gotten some vicious backlash from right wingers for just stating the truth about what the evangelical beliefs are in regard to the end times. But it's what you say is absolutely accurate.
Yeah, so they catch feelings whenever you tell people what they actually think. I'm super happy to have them show me evidence to the contrary, but end times philosophy is clear. It's written in many different books. It's all over the internet. They're not hiding it at all. So you've got all the different steps. You have reconstitute Israel, check, and 1940. In fact, here, let me read you one of our graphics real quick. It's graphic 7. A Lifeway poll found that 80% of evangelicals believe that the creation of Israel in 1948 was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy that would bring about Christ's return. Now, there's a couple of steps in between there. They got to have to destroy the Dome of the Rock and really make Muslims angry and then start a giant world war. Oh, right, and the part where we all die. Almost everyone on earth dies except the evangelical Christians. They say to the rest of us as they see nothing but a pool of blood of 7 billion people massacred by their God. Now, I don't think that that's what most Christians believe, but I think that fundamentalist evangelical Christians actually do believe that, and they look forward to it, which makes them very sick people. So when Jesus returns, do the great majority of people in the world die or do they not die? According to your end times prophecy, they do. Billions and billions of people are murdered by your so-called God. Again, it's not actually God, it's not actually Jesus, it's their interpretation of it, right? But they're like, yes, we're going to kill everybody that isn't us. That is actually the ultimate wet dream for a right winger. So that's why they like Israel. And guess who dies in that worldwide massacre? The Jews. And they go, what? We're supporting Israel. But you're supporting Israel so that all the Jews can die. They're like, no, some of them convert. A tiny, tiny amount convert to Christianity right before the end. And then the rest of them are massacred. Millions and millions of Jews are slaughtered. We celebrate that. Why don't you think, we look at our Judeo-Christian heritage? No, it's not. It's just no one is willing to be honest about it in national media because they're like, oh no, that would get my ratings. Oh, I can't ever criticize evangelical Christians. Okay, well we can, and we can tell you the actual truth about them. So 75% of Jews in America vote for the Democratic Party. So it obviously varies by election, but it is consistently in that ballpark. Okay, and in fact, Trump talks about it too. And it really, really bothers him. So in that quote that we're telling you about today, he said, US Jews have to get their act together and appreciate what they have in Israel. He doesn't care about that. He thinks they should appreciate what they have in me. Look at all these things that I did for Israel. And he constantly refers to Israel as your country when he's talking to Jewish crowds. The Washington Post just did a story on it. Tons and tons of references to your prime minister, your country. You knucklehead, they're Jewish Americans, they're not Israelis. I know your anti-Semitic head cannot get that thought past your skull, right? But this is another anti-Semitic trope. Oh, they're not really loyal to us. They're loyal to only Jewish interests, like Israel. No, they're Americans. They're voting on American interests. He never ever says us, he always says you when he's talking about Jews connecting them to Israel. All right, and then look, Donald Trump's anti-Semitic comments are endless. He was at a Republican Jewish coalition in 2015. He said, look, I'm a negotiator like you folks. We're negotiators. This room negotiates perhaps more than any room I've spoken to, maybe more. Why? Now for right-wingers, they're like, what do you mean? They're Jews. Of course they just negotiate and renegotiate all the time. You know what I mean? No, I do know what you mean. You're an anti-Semite. You're saying, yeah, I hate Jews and I have these terrible stereotypes of them. And Trump always says the quiet part out loud. And now that Kanye opened the door to anti-Semitic comments and anti-Semitic comments being heroic. Oh, I'm being canceled for saying awful things about Jewish people. I'm the victim. Trump's like, I want to be a victim too. Why aren't these sons of bitches supporting me when I already did something for their country, Israel? And that's Trump, and that's why, and the right wing doesn't look past that to like him. That's why they like him. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat, emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.